Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. I would like to welcome all our viewers on YouTube and also in Zoom for this important lecture, the International World Professorial Lecture Series that ISTAC has launched since few months, which we are picking key scholars and prominent persons to deliver talks on key issues that are of importance for the international community and also for the local community. And today we are honored to have His Excellency Pascal Grégoire, the Ambassador of Belgium, with us. And without any delay, I would like to call Professor Abdelaziz Barghouth, the Dean of ISTAC, for his welcoming remark. Please, Prof.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Prof. Faris. His Excellency Grégoire Pascal, the Ambassador of Belgium to Malaysia, and our guest of honor in today's ISTAC-WORLD Professorial Lecture. Dear Professor Dr. Faris, Deputy Rector, Academic and Internationalization, IIUM, UMC members, deans, directors, professors, doctors, scholars, researchers, community leaders, students from Malaysia and elsewhere. I welcome all our viewers in the Zoom, YouTube platforms and ISTAC TV channel and elsewhere. Good morning and warm welcome to the 6th ISTAC-WORLD Professorial Lecture. First and foremost, we are very much honored to have His Excellency Ambassador Grégoire Pascal to deliver ISTAC-WORLD Lecture on human being security agenda in a globalized world. What kind of diplomacy for 21st century? A quest for renewed trust and legitimacy. This is indeed a special lecture in many ways. First, it is delivered by an experienced and long-serving ambassador with a long diplomatic career. Second, His Excellency is not only an ambassador, but an intellectual who has interest in world issues. Third, it is evident from the well-articulated title of the lecture that His Excellency is addressing an important topic of global interest. Fourth, since our first IWPL by the Honorable Professor Emeritus Tansri Zulkifli, the Rector of IIUM, who spoke on humanizing education, a model of university the world needs in the post-normal era, which charted the characteristics and foundation of the value-based and wisdom-driven university of the future. Today, and at the end, we have to focus on wisdom. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, this lecture today is also about humanizing diplomacy and global relations for a better world. Addressing issues of human being security, trust, and legitimacy puts us directly in the real face of world issues. As our university, IIUM, moving forward in its agenda of humanizing education and value-driven sustainable development, issues of global nature become crucial, such as humanizing education, humanizing leadership, humanizing science and technology, humanizing governance and management. Today, His Excellency is addressing this important topic, which can be put under humanizing global diplomacy for a better human, cultural, and civilizational relations. We believe ISTAC-WORLD Professorial Lecture, engaging His Excellency and other world-renowned scholars and dignitaries, locally and internationally, will open a new horizon for new thoughts and solutions. Once again, I welcome you all. May God bless you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you much, Professor Aziz. I think also I would like to welcome our rector, Tansri Zulkifli. I would like to invite Professor Ahmed Faris for his welcoming remark without also delay. Please, Prof.
Thank you very much, Professor Faris. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good morning. Let me, of course, on behalf of the university, welcome our honored guest, distinguished speaker for this morning, His Excellency Mr. Pascal Grégoire, the Ambassador of Belgium. We hope that Your Excellency, I think this is just not only the beginning, but a continued good relationship between your embassy, your country, and our university, inshallah, for many more future projects, especially talking about diplomacy and the betterment of the world. Of course, I have my boss here, Professor Tansri Zul, the rector of the university, and Professor, of course, Abdul Aziz Barghut, the Dean of ISTAC. Respected colleagues, professors, as well as distinguished participants, audience of this ISTAC-WORLD Professorial Lecture Series. So I guess we thank Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for allowing us to continue this very important professorial lecture series. And this is, of course, in line with the vision and mission of our university, International Islamic University Malaysia, how to serve the world and how to serve the community, and how to have also intercultural understanding, as well as further dialogues and exchange of ideas on how, we can move forward and make our world a better place to live, not only for our generation, but also for our future generation. So on that note, I think I would like to really thank His Excellency, Mr. Pascal Grégoire, for your willingness and for your time this morning. We look forward to your, I would say that your professorial lecture and to share with us the ideas, and maybe after that, I think we can have some good discussion and a conclusion on how to move forward in this agenda, talking about the security agenda for the humans in this challenging world. Indeed, Your Excellency, especially I think we in Malaysia learned a lot from this pandemic situation. I think there are many lessons that we can learn, and for us, I think it's a good time for us to reset and to start revisiting and rethinking of what we have been doing, and see, how the humanities can work together by understanding each other and by going back to the basic. Okay, because I think for the past so many years, I think people have been very busy with their life, but with this pandemic, I think this is a time where we have a time to again reset, rethink, and also see how we can go back to the basic of the human nature, basic of the maybe look back at the existence of the humanity on this earth, and see, what are our roles and responsibilities that we are here now during this time. I think indeed it's a very, I guess, once in a lifetime experience for all of us, this COVID-19. I think this is a one, and then everybody is still learning, experimenting, trying to make sense of what's going on, and trying to, at the end of the day, sit down and think together and see how can we work together. I guess, Your Excellency, I think for your information, I mean, our university is very international. We have students coming from more than 100 countries, and we have faculty members coming from about 40 countries. So we believe that this is a good setting and a good environment. I mean, where people coming from a different country can be together and then interact, understand each other, and hopefully, I mean, this will form a good network for the future. So we are very happy that you are willing to deliver the professor lecture this morning, and we hope that we will continue the collaboration and as well as maybe we can talk about some projects that we can do together, okay? Maybe at least for Malaysia, for the ASEAN country, and maybe for the whole world. So with that, thank you very much. I look forward to your lecture.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you very much, Prof. Ahmed Faris. I would like to, because our rector is present with us, so if he wants to have some welcoming remarks before we start. Definitely, I know you have comments after we finish, definitely.
Yeah, we welcome our Prof. We welcome Prof. Richter. We are honored to have him here. Prof. Richter, welcome, and we want to listen to your words of wisdom.
No, Excellency, the word of wisdom is from the ambassador, not from me. So we have taken so much of his time. I would just want to welcome him. Indeed, we are very honored to have you as a friend, not just not just an ambassador. I think we have built relationships together since the COVID-19 started, and I hope they will stay that way. So I will not take much of your time. We have some comments at the end of the day. Excellency, thank you very much, and we look forward to your always very creative and very provocative talk. So thank you very much for joining us. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Tan Sri. Now I will make a kind of a very short introduction to His Excellency Pascal Grégoire, the Ambassador of Belgium to Malaysia. Actually, it's a very significant career. He was the ambassador for Venezuela and also the deputy head of protocol for Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Afghanistan. He was the head of mission Belgian diplomatic office in Kosovo, and he was the first secretary of embassy, senior economic advisor, and also he was National Geographic Institute board member, and he's still, I think he's still maybe, and also many other positions in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also in the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. He was with the Board of Asian Development Bank, also in Manila. So he has been, I think, he has been in many places. Southeast Asia is a key place. He has been there for a while, and also in many places which have witnessed a kind of sometimes problematic issues like Kosovo, like other Afghanistan, and other places. So I think this is why His Excellency is aware of this human security agenda that he will deliver on it today. And for the studies, he had negotiation and mediation seminar for diplomats certificate. This is from the Belgium Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And also he has another certificate in mediation in 2017. And he has a master in public management from the Libre University of Belgium, Université Libre de Belgium, and then a financial program and policy certificate from the International Monetary Fund, and licence, a bachelor in science and commercial from Saint-Louis, Brussels, and also a certificate on the European Studies from the Catholic University of Louvain, which is one of the big universities and historical universities in Europe. One of the interesting things that I noticed also on His Excellency profile on LinkedIn, his very personal comment about value-driven government, which I think this is an issue that is very interesting, and it might be of interest for another lecture, inshallah, with us in IUM. I would like to welcome His Excellency. It's always a pleasure to have diplomat, politicians who are intellectuals at the same time. And I believe if we have more politicians who are intellectual, the world will be much better. So I would like to welcome him to deliver his talk today. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year. It's not too late to wish it, being a Chinese New Year, being other kind of New Year, it's never too late to wish each other the best. Dear International Islamic University Malaysia Rector, Professor Dr. Tan Sri Zulkifli Razak, dear ISTAC Dean, Professor Dr. Berghout, dear Deputy Rector, Professor Ahmad Farid, dear Deputy Dean Assistant, Professor Dr. Nick Saiful Azizi, dear Professor Dr. Walid Fekri, dear professors, dear assistants, professors, dear doctors, dear students, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and most of all, dear friend. Allow me first of all to express my deepest and sincerest gratitude to the authorities of the IIUM, in particular Rector Tan Sri Zul Razak, and ISTAC Dean, Professor Berghout, for their trust and mostly for their friendship. It is deeply and sincerely appreciated. I would like to add also that what I will be sharing today reflects my own personal experience and thought. It does not reflect in any way the official position of the Belgian government, of the Belgian authorities, neither of the Belgian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, neither the official position of the Embassy of the Kingdom of Belgium in Malaysia. These are really quote and unquote personal thoughts, as far as it's possible to have personal thoughts on this broad subject. This said, dear friends, for many of us, the most impactful geopolitical event that happened during our lifetime was for sure the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. The world changed that day, and it never returned to how it was before. And still over the past years, a proliferation of unthinkable events have revealed new fragilities at the highest level of corporate and public service leaderships. Our ability to spot, our ability to identify and to handle unexpected, non-normative events is shown perilously inadequate at critical moments. The shocks from these events for corporate and public service leaders prompted legitimate concern about the caliber and capacities of those in the highest position of responsibility to first foresee them and then to handle their impact. Geopolitical realities are suddenly dramatically different. The world is much more uncertain and volatile than it has ever been before. And this is because of some factors coming together now that have never come together before and at such an intensity. And of course, what we are observing, they are all amplifying each other in a globalized world. We have today a totally different world order, and we struggle with that enormously. How to understand it, how to interpret it, how to cope with it. It is moving so fast, and it is, yes, so disturbing. The scale of challenge that we are facing is comparable to, quote and unquote, eating an elephant in one mouthful. It is re-evolution and not simply evolution, neither revolution. It is re-evolution, as there are many accelerations at once, which make it difficult for the mankind, for you and me, to cope with it. Neither for political leaders and institutions, nor for business leaders. At least 3 areas that are increasingly challenging societies and politics are the following. First, the increasing number of organized and institutionalized actors active in the international field and their legitimacy, if any. Second, the publics, the stakeholders, which traditionally unaffected by foreign policy, in part are now networking nationally and internationally, calling for consideration of their concern, fair enough, including diplomacy. And last but not least, the progress and implication of digitization. Digital space has created indeed a post-truth, hyper-emotional world in which conflicts of identity are taking place in the public space with most of the time a lot of intensity. This said, the analysis of diplomacy in the 21st century and its challenges should also take into account the implication of renationalization, populism, and isolationism, and the threats it imposes on the human society agenda in a globalized world. Facing threats of rising nativism, nationalism, as well as post-truth and post-fake trends, diplomacy might need to go back to its foundational concept of power relations. On the other hand, it has to further engage the public, all stakeholders, consisting of a new generation of digital natives, and operate at the nexus of politics and society while being embedded in a transnational world with international permanent interactions. Thus, networking, meaning the interaction between diplomacy and the stakeholders at large, becomes more than ever central to diplomacy as a whole. Today, there is less and less control of the information environment. Informing the public has become a dialogue with the public. We were referring, Professor, to the use of social media like LinkedIn. This is not anymore to express, or not only to express how good we are, how strong, and how better we might be, but this is also to engage, to be transparent, a way to be, yes, indeed, to be more transparent and to explain to taxpayer, but also to anybody interested, what exactly is at stake and what is happening behind the screens. The lack of trust in the internet can eventually be an ally to traditional diplomacy. Accordingly, more socialization should be considered. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, as a result of all these cyclical and structural trends, diplomacy as we know it is also facing an existential challenge as it finds itself in legitimacy and relevance crisis, which stems from societal elements like climate change, migration, etc., etc. This becomes especially evident when looking at states that are at the core of the international system, such as the United Kingdom, the United States, and parts of the European Union, just to name a few of them, where the legitimacy crisis manifests itself through issues such as trade deals, the Brexit, or migration and nationalistic issues. And here I would like to add that when I'm talking about crisis, I have no judgment about this. I don't say Brexit is good or bad. I don't say that migration and nationalistic issues are good or bad per se. I'm just mentioning facts. Furthermore, modern day diplomacy legitimacy is questioned with regard to its internal functioning, which is being criticized for its lack of transparency, if not accountability. Less and less diplomacy happens in its traditional bubble, where dialogue and exchanges are limited and usually behind closed doors, which does not mean that minimal doses amount of behind closed doors might not be necessary, indispensable, and crucial at some point. And of course, the core of diplomacy, government and power is changing anyway. Facing the prevailing trends of transnationality on the one hand and renationalization on the other hand, new norms and rules are needed. I guess we might all agree on this. New norms and rules are needed, learning the lessons of the past and not necessarily reinventing the wheel. And the COVID-19 crisis will undoubtedly lead to a change of paradigm in global affairs as well. Actors of diplomacy will do well in abandoning their predictions of doom, for they can easily become a self-fulfilling prophecy all around the world, the Western world, on this part of the world. Actors of diplomacy would do well in abandoning their predictions of doom, for they can easily become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Rather, this tumultuous time call for intellectual introspection and a cold, rational, whatever rational mean, reflection on what we wish the future to be like. Rather, these tumultuous times call for intellectual introspection, and a rational reflection on what we, citizens of the world, citizens of this world, of this country, of my country, what we wish the future to be like. The pre-coronavirus status quo is not just unattainable, but undesirable too. However, a descent into international anarchy is avoidable. Apologize. However, a descent into international anarchy is avoidable. Cooperation still offers our best chance to achieve a better collective future. Cooperation still offers our best chance to achieve a better collective future. Diplomats should adapt their benchmarks for measuring negotiation and cooperation success, taking them away from trade balances and profit maximization, and bringing them to humans' shared fate and planet. Repatriating or diversifying strategic sectors of the global supply chain to avoid the chaos we saw in the first half of 2020 does not prevent deepening ties to coordinate a green way out of this crisis. This does not prevent deepening ties to coordinate a green way out of this crisis. Indeed, 10 years from now, it will be too late, as simple as that, to act no matter how good everybody's intentions are or were. Global governance therefore requires a revamp, a reboot, a reset, whatever we call it. Global governance therefore requires a revamp. The time to act is now, right now. International trade and financial flows are certainly important, but it is time for globalizations to be a lot more than that. Humanity has a shared planet and a shared destiny. There is no way out. Post-COVID-19 international institutions should take note of this reality and cooperate to give appropriate answers to today's most significant issues. Diplomacy should thus become human-oriented and abandon its state-centric premises. Diplomacy and diplomats should thus become human-oriented and abandon their state-centric premises. I'm deeply convinced that the structures of global governance must be reinforced through greater subsidiarity, that is, by enhancing the participation of local authorities, by the involvement of civil society and the private sector, and by regionalizing initiatives where appropriate. Structures of global governance must be reinforced through greater subsidiarity. Furthermore, globalization scope should be extended to cover the shared governance of all global public goods and elements affecting human security. But what does all of this concretely mean for us all, professional diplomats, but also managers, academics, students, or simple citizens? What is expected from us on, I would say, a more grassroots level on a daily basis? These are unpredictable times that require extraordinary actions and solutions. What we see today is a world in transition, brought about the COVID-19 pandemic that has lasted almost 2 years. Where it is transitioning to will depend on how individuals, you and me, and countries cope with these new realities that have emerged and are still emerging. The question being, are we reframing our future, or is it the future reframing us? Is it the future reframing us, or are we reframing our future? That's the question. If we don't change ourselves, if I don't change myself, it will be impossible to change the systems and institutions that govern and enable us. Also, as simple as that. Managing the volatility, managing the uncertainty, managing the complexity and ambiguity that we are facing means reinventing what it means to be human and how we go into arranging our businesses, quote and unquote business. And COVID-19 provides us with the right enabling conditions to shift from reboot to redesign of our human-based system. And this COVID-19 pandemic provides us with the right enabling condition to shift from reboot, reset, to redesign of our human-based systems. Breakdown provides the ideal conditions for breakthrough. Breakdown provides the ideal conditions for breakthrough. If we have the vision, the stamina, and yes, the guts, and enough self-knowledge and self-management, self-discipline to become the leaders that we have been waiting for. Together, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, we can create the conditions today for regeneration, a biological process of renewal that leads to a higher order of health, wealth, vitality, and viability of a system. More health means increased healthiness and quality of life. More wealth refers to increased richness in terms of resources and life forms. More vitality means increased vigor and aliveness, and more viability refers to increased ableness to stay alive. Regeneration means, therefore, actions. Actions, 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 now, now, now. Regeneration can be looked at as a process of becoming more and doing more. Actions, now. leaving the wider system healthier, wealthier, more viable and more vital than before is both life affirming and life enhancing. It ensures that life can stay alive despite change, disruptions, and major upheavals. Imagine, my friends, what we could achieve if we replaced our current machine-based models of innovation, which is not bad per se, no judgment about it. Imagine if we could replace our current machine-based models of innovation by nature-inspired innovation, if we switched from a for-profit to a for-life logic, which in my mind are not incompatible, are not necessarily antagonistic as such. Businesses and international relations could become the engine of planetary regeneration and a beacon of creativity and meaningful work, spreading hope and ingenuity, not despair and burnout. Switching from a for-profit to a for-life logic would allow us to become engines of planetary regeneration, beacons of creativity and meaningful world, spreading hope and ingenuity, not despair and burnout. With these few humble concluding remarks, I thank you all very much for your kind attention. I thank you also very much, all participants, for taking the time to be with us today. And I will be more than happy, not only to hear and to answer as much I will be able to your question, but also to hear your comments, because I see as this lecture as a win-win opportunity to learn from each other. Thank you so very much again.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. This is a very short and concise key points. And I think we have a lot of our great scholars with us on Zoom and on YouTube. I received actually, I would like to invite, if somebody wants to have his own comment, please make the mark so I can follow according to the request. But the questions that I received, I think from Professor Al-Attas, and the question or the first comment is, the field of diplomacy is part of a larger discipline of international relations and strategic studies. What, in your opinion, Your Excellency, are the shortcomings of how the discipline of international relation is approached in Malaysian universities' curricula? And another one, is Europe, in your opinion, concerned about the de-Americanization international relation theoretical framework? And another question, could this help Malaysia, Southeast Asia, or even the Global South better navigate geopolitical challenges that they face? I'm not sure it will be question by question, Your Excellency, or I put a few of them for you and then you can answer.
Your call, sir. Your
okay.
call.
Another one I have also, do you think with all the political and ideological complexity of today's diplomacy, there is a horizon to make the necessary change towards human-oriented diplomacy? What is the starting point?
Can you repeat this one?
Okay. Do you think with all the political and ideological complexity of today's diplomacy, there is a horizon to make the necessary change towards human-oriented diplomacy? What is the starting point?
Thank you. If you don't mind, I will start with this question. What is the starting point? I would say I am in the field diplomat, right? I'm not an academic, or I share right now. This is the fruit of my own experience. Of course, I did not reinvent the wheel. read, I heard, I listened, I exchanged, and so on. So it's really reflection from the field and practice of more than 30 years. What is the starting point, I would say, is awareness. Individual awareness, what is at stake, collective awareness, and from that to learn the right lessons and to move on. So it might seem very basic, but if we can start with the very basic to build the more complex system, why not? I would say the starting point would be awareness. And to some extent, what I share with you during 20 minutes or so, this is just to make us aware of what is at stake and what possible, these are not the only ways, possible way out might be possible for the future. Awareness, I would say. To reply to the three questions of Dr. Rafida Alatas, and I greet her warmly, and I thank her to be with us today and for a question. Malaysian education system, I would say for a starting point that I cannot judge about it because I'm not a product of Malaysian education system. I'm not an insider and I cannot really comment on this. I'm a product of European education system. I'm a product of Belgium French-speaking system, although I studied also abroad. I mean, each and any system has its education system as its pro and con, as its advantage and disadvantage, as its lack of efficiency, lack of whatever we want. And the point is to think about it and to learn the lessons and to move forward. And I have the weakness to think that intention in wherever and whatever education system around the world might be paved with good intention. What is the final result, of course, is another thing. And I think what is important, education system is put in place or thought about by politicians, by technocrats, by academics, by academics at large. But there is, of course, another very important, and I'm talking here more about university or beyond secondary schools education system. There is an important part of the equation. These are the students. What kind of education do they want? How do they feel with the education for which they've been subsidized or for which they are paying for? Is it in phase with their aspiration with the younger generation of 2021, or is it still in line with the aspiration of 19th century students? These are questions that probably system has to answer rather than I. The Americanization, yes, I guess that during the Roman Empire, they were talking about de-Romanization of the world. Ottoman Empire, they were talking about de-Ottomanization, and with all respect, I'm not judging, de-Ottomanization of the Ottoman empires, and probably I forgot other kind of empire around the world. This is why, Professor, I mentioned, not only we have to be aware, we have to be self-conscious of what is in the world, how we are functioning ourselves, but this is also how important cooperation is important, regional cooperation. For instance, talking about Southeast Asia, but I can talk about European Union. What does this region, leaders, citizens, students do want, not only for their country, but for instance, Southeast Asia or Asia as a whole, or South Asia, you name it. What do you want? What do want the stakeholders? And more critically, I would say, what do they know? What don't they don't want? What do they don't want, right? Regional cooperation is important. And there is room for maneuver as well for cooperation, for strengthening cooperation within the European Union, but definitely, I guess, within Southeast Asia, ASEAN, and other regional cooperative agreements. This Americanization, the Westernization. Each country is supposed to be sovereign, but we are in a real world. Not only individuals are depending from others, but also, of course, the states. And we see this, for instance, now in the Europe with the energy problematic, which is with what is happening around Ukraine and so on. I would say, Dr. Latas, nature dislike void. And if this is the law of the strongest, which is prevailing, and there I'm talking on my own, I mean, these are my personal thoughts. If this is the law of the strongest which is prevailing, it means because there is not really something strong and articulated, at least intellectually. I'm not talking about physical force or whatever. It means that there is some weakness in front of the strongest. So the weakest, quote and unquote, I'm not judging, should also think about how to further strengthen its own capabilities at large. I hope I answer your questions both. Thank you.
Thank you, His Excellency. I'm inviting Tansri Zul. I think he wants to comment, so please.
Thank you very much, Prof. Walid. Assalamu alaikum, Excellency. Like I say, it's always refreshing to hear you speak, and I really find that there's many of the things that you say resonates with what the university is trying to do, although at a very infancy. I like the word life logic that you talked about. This is a logic that I think we have missed most of the time, even when we talk about education. It is more of livelihood rather than life per se. And, you know, this is what we're seeing today, when life is not even understood the way it should be understood. When there is a COVID-19 all in front of us, we still think that life could be, you know, dispensed to some people and so on and so forth. But my question to you is to go back to the first time we meet. I think we were put together on a special mission of yours when we talk about spirituality. There was what, almost 2 years ago that we came and talk about spirituality. Can you try and put this in the perspective of how you understand spirituality would be as part of the new world, as part of diplomacy, or as part of how we live together as human beings?
Tansri, thank you very much to kindly remind our first meeting. Really, it was the core of our friendly exchange then, a bit more than 2 years ago. This is a vast question, of course, and it's very personal, even if we can put it in a religious or non-religious, philosophical or non-philosophical perspective. It's still spirituality is still. Even if transcendental or whatever we call it, is very much an individual experience. We can say anything. We can belong to a specific religion or whatever, with institution, a system of thought and so on, but mostly it's individual who are living it in a way or another. So this is a vast question. I would say, Tansri, and to be very honest, I would say to me is a matter of awareness with a capital A. It's a way also of knowing ourselves and to know with the world around and inside us, and how we are decided through what is best inside of us and inside of everybody, anybody, what is best to build up individuals or to support the creation of individuals, of system, of group of society that are more respectful of the dignity of each other. Awareness can be awareness through intellectual thinking, through a religious own path, can be philosophical path, could be a mix of it. This is how today, right now, when you're asking me the question, I would try to answer your question, Tansri.
Okay, thank you very much, Tansri and Your Excellency. I have another comment from Dr. Abdul Hamid and another question on the chat. So I will exchange between verbal and written questions. The question on the chat is, Your Excellency, in a polycentric world where US, China, India, and Russia exert influence, the old style of globalization is changing rapidly. In this context, what is your, it should be forecast, I think it's broadcast, but it should be forecast of human security.
I would say, thank you very much for the question. All through this lecture, I'll try to share the framework according to which I see the way to do it. And again, putting myself in the shoes of an action man really is more in the field actor than an academic. I would say cooperation, communication, listening with humility as individuals, but also in organization, to respect the constraints of the other and to see through dialogue and through consensus building how we can again find balance. And of course, it's complicated. It's not about the last 2 years or the last 10 years. It's about the last 2,000 years. It's not 2 million years. I don't know. So it demonstrates how complicated it is. But who is making the difference? These are the individuals. I've never shake the hand of Mr. and Mrs. Market. I never shake or greet the hand of Mr. or Mrs. System, capitalist, socialist, communist system. These are individuals and they have a name and they make or not the difference. Pascal Grégoire, diplomat, ambassador of Belgium, has a name and he tries or not to make a name, and simple as that. It's very basic, but obviously it's too basic probably and too simple to get somewhere there from generation to generation, which is very direct answer. Of course, you know that I can be very direct, but it's not from it's like the spirituality, what for me is spirituality. Of course, I can Google it and to give and share a few definitions of spirituality, but what's the point? What is the interest? What is the interest? This is what one is thinking and more of what he or she is thinking, what she is doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Dr. Abdul Hamid, please, floor of yours also, if you have a comment.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Thank you very much, Excellency, for your wonderful presentation, and thank you, Prof. Faris, for giving me the opportunity. Walid Faris, thank you very much. In fact, I don't know, is it a question or comment? I would like to hear from you, His Excellency, the importance or the impact of popular diplomacy nowadays. The title of the lecture is called Globalized World, but I think it is a globalized village. Now we are living in this globalized village where countries are losing their borders. So we are in this borderless era where everything is possible. So where is the countries applying popular diplomacy? At the same time, the international humanitarian law. Countries nowadays advocate international humanitarian law, but we see in many parts of the world, refugees are suffering, are denied their basic rights. So in your opinion, how to implement this international humanitarian law? And what is the significance of popular diplomacy in this era of globalization or globalized village? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the question. Did I correctly understand the first question is cultural diplomacy, right? Cultural diplomacy.
You're referring to cultural diplomacy, Dr. Hamida, or public diplomacy?
No, popular diplomacy will include public diplomacy, cultural diplomacy, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
But and can you rephrase also your second question? I didn't get it properly because connection is not sometimes not so good. So
refugees.
In few words.
Dr. Hamid, the second question on the refugees, can you, or you can write it, or you can write it down and then I will read it. No problem.
In any case, definitely cultural diplomacy, public diplomacy are tools, powerful tools that should be used to boost human diplomacy agenda. And definitely I welcome the Malaysian government, and in particular Malaysia Minister of Foreign Affairs, for in his plan for Malaysia international relations for the coming years. Cultural diplomacy is an important and strong point. Why? It does not help only to project the best of a country, but also it projects the best according to which people all around the world or in a specific region or country can connect. This is the best way to know better each other, to know what are the other's values, traditions, and also therefore is the best way of one of the best tools to better understand each other, to better figure out how we can connect to address common good goals. So definitely, I welcome this initiative from the Malaysian authorities. It's nothing new, of course. We are all doing cultural diplomacy, and sometimes even not without knowing it. But sometimes it's good to go back to the basics. So the second question, frankly, I still don't get it.
Okay, well, maybe Dr. Abdul Hamid is okay. The impact. The second question is the impact of international humanitarian law in this era, and he's referring to the many problems that refugees are facing in many places in Europe, Australia, United States. So I think he's asking about, is this international humanitarian law is actually taking place or just ink on paper?
I would say to put on the table the question is already to answer it, right? On a very personal basis, and let's be clear, for me, what is happening with refugees, whatever economic, political, humanitarian, or whatever refugees, is a shame all over the world. Refugees in the western part, eastern part, southern part is a shame. Who should take care of their own people? Of course, this is the basic principle. This is their own government, right? I mean, this is, and if they are refugees, there has been always refugees, I would say natural refugees. You want to have a better life or whatever you don't find in your village, you don't find in your region, you don't find in your country, on your own continent. So you try to go where you can have a better life, not only for you, for your family. So it's nothing new, but what is of course happening today and what happened anytime in the past time with refugee is a shame. Is a shame for everybody, not only for a particular part of the world. Is a shame for any human being, because we are to some extent all refugees or potential refugees. These are all brothers and sisters in humanity, and what is happening bad to one of them is affecting the whole community. Very personal thoughts, of course, but of course, again, we live in the real world. This is why the promoters of international humanitarian law try to fix on a consensual basis, even though it has been written in some part of the world and so on. But on a, at that time, consensual basis to write guidelines to make sure that whatever the situation, the weakest won't be again the victim of what is happening outside themselves. They are victims. And in the real world, it's not always working like this. This is why it is so important to have a strong framework. This is also why the stakeholders are important to put pressure on those who are supposed to apply international humanitarian law, but any kind of international law, any kind of local law, any kind of fair national law should put pressure if they feel that there is any doubt. This is our responsibility of all of us. It's not only the responsibilities of the government in these very painful issues. This is the responsibilities of everybody. I must say, and to be very practical as well, I'm always surprised when we discuss with people. Yes, those politicians, those politics is always a problem. Those multinationals, this is a problem. Those capitalists is a problem. Those socialists is a problem. Those communists is a problem. Those religious people, whatever they are, Christian or whatever, this is their problem. Yeah. We always forget that there is another part of the equation. This is the citizen. This is you and me. Yes, I know it's complicated because you cannot say loudly maybe what you want, or we have all a salary, we have all bills to pay and so on. So we have to be careful. Yes, of course. But what are we doing ourselves? What are we doing ourselves? This is the true question. The point is not the system as such. Of course, we are in the real world, and of course the system might work or not. But without citizens, without stakeholders, without you and me, there is no system. Let's think about it. This is all I wanted to share.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I have a couple of questions received through WhatsApp. One question is, Europe is witnessing drastic changes currently. And these changes are actually migration issues, Islamophobia issues, and the rise of the right wing in many places in Europe. How this will affect the relation between Europe and other parts of the world. And I think that the rest of the question is very interesting. Also saying, while we are talking about engagement, we are actually disengaged. So what is your views of this?
Diplomacy is a living thing. I don't know if it's a science or an art or a combination of this. And so is the world. Globalizing, deglobalizing. This is also the real world. And this is what we observe today with the supply chain disruption and with nationalism, transnationalism, and so on. This is what I try also to share and to explain during the lecture. So I would say EU is an interesting body. This is a living thing. This is a living thing. By the way, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg within the Benelux were kind of at the very start of the European community. Benelux, a custom community was created between Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg in 1940. European Community, 1957 or something like this. European Union later, and this is of course still a kind of intergovernmental body where few matters or several matters are the full responsibility of the European Commission, for instance, trade, but many other issues are the full responsibility of the states, while respecting the so-called principle of subsidiarity I was talking about in the lecture. So, for instance, health is the full responsibility of each country, and sometimes in the regions of a country, They have their own Minister of Health, National Minister of Health, Regional Minister of Health, and so on and so on. And so it explains that sometimes it's complicated to have a joint, common, balanced, harmonious, united position. It's just good sense. Does not mean they don't work on it. Same about migration. Migration, we can like it or not, but it's the responsibility of each member state. Of course, European Union is dealing with it and try to find common points, issue of common interest to build up through concrete actions and to try to build up a more harmonious, if possible, European migration policy. Islamization, I would say, and apologize my direct language. They are idiots everywhere, right? They are idiots everywhere. They are stupid, uneducated, manipulative people everywhere. So in Belgium is 11.1 million inhabitants. Brussels, capital of Belgium, plurilingual, pluricultural, racial. We have about 160 something different nationalities in Brussels. We are the second largest diplomatic community in the world after Washington. So 11.1 million inhabitants, Brussels, capital of Belgium and of Europe, 1.1 million inhabitants, 50% of the population is Muslim. Muslim, mostly Morocco, Tunisia, Turkey, Northern Africa. So 50% is Muslim. We have federal, Belgium is a federal state, a constitutional monarchy. We are a federal state. We have, from origin, they are Belgium, of course, but from origin, Northern African, Moroccan federal minister, regional minister, member of the parliament, mayor, member of municipal country, and so on. I would like also to add, before to go to the core of the question, if we are talking about Belgium, we have recognized by the constitution seven officially recognized religions. Islam is one of them, next to the Catholic religion, to the Orthodox religion, to the Protestant religion, to the Buddhist religion, to the free thinkers religion. So subsidize it, it means that the recognized clergy is subsidized by the state, by the taxpayer, by me, by any Belgian, subsidized. So, but of course, in the real world, people are using this kind of topic to manipulate and to take profit of it. And I definitely don't think that there is an Islamization agenda. I just gave you the example of Belgium. Of course, like in any society, you have idiots, you have people who are not respecting the laws and so on, but this is not a few black sheep in a crowd that should damage the whole objective of better living together. I don't know if it answers to the question.
Thank you much, Your Excellency. I would like to invite Professor Dato Anwar Fazal for a comment. He wants to comment, and then we have another written question after this.
Yes. Thank you, Your Excellency, for those great insights that you have given us over the last hour. I enjoyed very much the issues you have raised with regard to human security and also about diplomacy and the challenges of diplomacy. And it's wonderful to hear someone like you talk to us, speaking in a way truth to power about what is possible, not possible in the world. I wanted to start off with some good news. And the good news is that Amnesty International has come up very strongly in a very clear statement that Israel, the state of Israel, is practicing apartheid against the Palestinians. And I think this is the kind of conscience, the kind of courage, the kind of consistency that also is so much needed in the world, because unless we have these kinds of people with conscience, with courage, who are prepared to speak out, then we will not make the change that we want. The way that you brilliantly described of how if you want to make a future, then it's a journey, and it's the journey that you will make. If you don't make it, then others will make it for you. And I think that that example of people with conscience, with courage, with the kind of consistency is so much necessary in this world. I wanted also to comment on the vocabulary that very often is used in the world today, and it's you can say sometimes the underside of global, you can say, manipulation of issues. Yeah, and this is particularly the use of the easy use of the word terrorists. And you had mentioned the terrorists about 9/11, and I think it's much more complex. And if you have read right down from the Project for a New American Century, if you have read a whole series of documentaries, very detailed analysis and so on, I think there are a whole lot of issues that the world has been kept ignorant about, and how media and other places were manipulated. And I think we have to be very careful about words like that, which has become a very popular term in order to demonize, not to demonize anybody that you feel you want to make look bad. We forget that if we want to use that kind of vocabulary, then we should also be talking about state terrorism. Yeah, and then that would be the kind of using that kind of vocabulary by addressing it with also similar vocabulary. I could give many examples of state terrorism. I mean, one country which had a school where they trained people on how to overthrow their own governments. It was a very good documentary that was made. It was called the School of Assassins. That means you actually train people on how to overthrow regimes in the country. You got an example of another country that killed people from a civil society organization called Greenpeace, who were fighting to get a nuclear-free world. And these kinds of examples of state terrorism also become very significant. And I think if you want to talk on that kind of vocabulary, then we get into more than dialogue, very often interesting issues that are coming up. The other point I wanted to make also is the new world that we have come, and I think the very important point that you made of the three things that you see in the future, and this is the digitalization of the world. And this digitalization of the world itself has seen a new kind of what someone has called surveillance capitalism. That now you can be tracked in a new kind of way. You find that you have open access, and you feel you have a new liberation of reaching anyone, anytime, anyway. But at the same time, at the background, you are now being monitored. You get blasted by advertisements according to what your movements are or what your little things are, and much more significant, and this is one of the things that I've been seeing, how because those who control those information systems, they themselves are able then to make selections of what you should be reading, looking at, and moving. And large numbers of people get trapped. Once they get trapped into that particular system, they get trapped also into the news and other things that then will be showered on them. And this is a whole new challenge for the world, that you can be very quietly, selectively bombarded in various kinds of ways. And also, and this is a very significant thing, eliminated from that system should you choose to make a comment of something that the powers to be behind this digital capitalism speak against. And I've had many, many examples of friends who spoke truth to power about certain kinds of regimes, and they get suspended. But others who speak about different kinds of issues that we are very much concerned about, that are issues, there is no problem about them with regard to do that. So you see also certain kinds of powerful hidden manipulations that are being done, and this is why I think the points that were made of values of conscience that His Excellency has made are so important, that we have to learn, we have to fight together to join alliances with all those who want to speak truth to power, who want to talk about conscience, who want to see success. And then how, as the Excellency has recommended, is, I think, the future. And all of us have to be part of global movements. There are wonderful things like the World Future Council that tells us about the kind of world that we want to see. We have models, individual models like Greta, on what she did with the climate issue, which shows you how you can change things in the world and change mindsets of the world through success stories. And I think celebrating these kinds of success stories all over the world is so important. And one of the things that many of us who are working with the Right Livelihood Foundation are doing is to in fact celebrate that kind of bravery, that kind of conscience, that kind of caring about the kind of future all of us want to make. So thank you so much, Your Excellency, for those insights. I look forward to working with you and other like-minded people in making the world a better place, a more humane place with greater human security. Thank you.
Thank you much. Thank you much, Professor Dato Anwar. Thank you for the comment. I think we need to move to conclude, to keep track of the. I still have questions and comments coming, but if we continue, it will never end. So I would like now to invite Professor Abdulaziz for a concluding remark.
Prof.
Yes.
Just let His Excellency, if he has any questions, any answers, or let His Excellency answer.
Okay. Do you have any other comments, Your Excellency, you want to conclude with?
Not at all. I welcome very much Professor Anwar, not only for being present with us, but also for, as usual, the very enlightening comments he shared with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. Okay, before we go to the presentation of certificate, Prof. Aziz, any concluding remark?
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Walid. Your Excellency, we are very, very honored to have you with us today here. It was great. It was a great lecture, and we benefited a lot from your insights. And I think that's takes our IWPL to another level of engaging with the world and trying to see how values and how wisdom can be answer to many things that we do today. I think this is really something great, and we thank all the participants who are with us here today, especially our rector, our deputy rector, and all the big scholars, professors, and people who attended this program. In fact, we have audience from Malaysia, from Indonesia, from Belgium, from Middle East, from Pakistan, from India, from China, from Canada, from USA, from Bangladesh, from many other parts of the world. And our audience today is a very special audience. I think this is a very encouraging time for the IWPL to go more global. And for the information of our people here, our next IWPL, number 7, will invite the ex-Prime Minister of Japan, Abe Shinzo, inshallah, and it will happen in March, and we will inform you before that, inshallah. With this one, I thank you all. May God bless you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Prof. Aziz. I would like, because we are in the digital world and even hyper world, as mentioned by His Excellency, certificate of appreciation to His Excellency Pascal Grégoire, the Ambassador of Belgium to Malaysia. Thank you very much. Of course, it will not be only digital, it will be physical. It will be sent to your place. Thank you very much for your enlightening speech today, and also your engaging with us, Your Excellency, with all your busy schedule. I would like to invite our colleague, Dr. Nek, the Deputy Dean for Student Affairs, for the dua, and then we conclude and we end the session. Please, Dr. Nek.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Prof. Moderator, Prof. Walid, Prof. Dean, Honorable Rector, and Deputy Rector. Thank you, our great speaker, His Excellency Mr. Pascal George, Ambassador of Belgium, for the productive and very informative lecture. Respected professors, brothers and sisters, let us pray to Allah to make our life more blessed, peaceful, and harmonious. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Allahumma ij'al jam'ana hadha jam'an marhuma wa tafarruqana min ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'suma wa la taj'al fina shaqiyyan wa la mahruma wa adkhilna bi rahmatika fi ibadikas salihin. Oh Allah, make useful for us what you taught us and teach us knowledge that will be useful to us. Oh Allah, increase us in knowledge. Oh Allah, we beg you to make our requests as the best of our supplications. We beg you for the best success, for the best duty, and for the best rewards. Oh Allah, we beg you to make our scale heavy with rewards. Make us patient in our actions, passionate in our works, dedicated in our jobs, knowledgeable in our fields. Make us humble in our behavior, strong in our faith, compassionate to our subjects, and tolerance to our differences. Allahumma inna nas'aluka ilman nafi'a wa rizqan tayyiba wa amalan mutaqabbala. O Allah, we ask you for the knowledge that is beneficial, a good provision, and deeds that will be accepted. O Allah, grant us understanding of deen. We are seeking refuge in you, O Allah, from a knowledge that is not beneficial. We are seeking refuge from a heart that does not tremble, from a soul that is not satisfied, from a dua that is not answered. O Allah, inspire us with good ideas. Protect us from the evil of ourselves, protect us from any calamities, and teach us from your infinite knowledge what we do not know. Glory be to you, Allah. We have no knowledge except what you have taught us. Merciful Allah, we have planned our days with many actions to benefit Islam, the Ummah, and this university. At this moment, we beg you to keep showing us the path to a fruitful discussion and guide us in removing our shortcomings, which we beg you, O Allah, for your mercy and forgiveness. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. قبل
Thank you
الله
very much, Dr. Nek. I think we, as usual in this event, we need to have a group photo. So I hope everybody will turn on their videos just for a while, so we can have a collective photo for the event.